Welcome to Cutoff Genes, the podcast that helps you find your truth using nothing but DNA. I'm Julie Dixon Jackson, and I'm a genetic genealogist, henceforth known as a Gen Genie.
Hello, my name's Lily Jackson, and I'm now a proper Brit.
Right? So my daughter's here, in case you didn't know.
In case you couldn't recognize me by this cool accent I have.
I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. Where have you been?
On the other side of the pond.
Okay. Let's not do voices.
Okay.
All right.
On the other side of the pond.
Does that mean London?
I've been in London, everybody. Thanks.
How was
I know
it?
You've missed me. It's been great. I'm studying genetic genealogy at Oxford University.
That's so funny you should say that. I was going to ask you, tell me your genealogy adventures in London.
Oh, wow.
Did you go to...
Well, you know where I tried to go was...
Where?
You one point told me, you came to me really excitedly one day and was like, oh, I found this relative we had from years and years ago who... Like,
third great uncle.
Thank you. Third great uncle who owned, like, or operated one of the locks,
He
right?
was a lock keeper on the Regent's Canal at Copperfield Road in Myland Town.
Yeah, and
His name was Henry Sides.
Thanks. Pour one out for Henry. He died there.
Yeah, he drowned on December 29th, 1900.
It's so specific. Ooh, a good year.
Yeah.
A ripe old year.
It was a ripe old year.
I genuinely wanted to try to get you some of the water from that part of the river for Christmas.
I could have made...
Ew, soup.
No! I could have made a tea soup. No, I could have made a water feature. I could have made a globe, like a snow globe.
Like a snow globe? Yeah, you could have. Oh, but then I
out
thought
of the
about
water that my third great uncle drowned in.
Yeah. I was going to do it, but then I thought maybe like going through customs, they would have like opened my bag and been like, why you got
What's with this water?
What's with this dirty, dirty water? And I'm like, funny you should say that. Someone died here. Let me call my mom. I promise she'll tell you all about it. Do you listen to podcasts?
Yeah. So yeah, this is the last episode of the year. I've self-produced this one as well as the last one.
Can you tell by my... I was going to do an ASMR bit, but I won't.
Thank you. No ASMR.
No ASMR
on my podcast. It's not an ASMR podcast.
No, audio sensory meridian response.
Whatever. Okay, so this week features an interview with a lovely lady named Robbie, who has a great story, and I've been helping her a little bit. Not much, but she's been terrific, and she has an incredible story. So I spoke to her on the phone a couple weeks ago, and you guys get to hear the results of that interview.
Yeah.
So that's coming up right after this moment of silence.
Oh.
Okay, guys, I have on the line Robbie, who is a listener and has agreed to come on and tell us her story. Thanks for being here, Robbie.
Well, thanks for having me, Julie.
I'm so happy you took my call. Start at the beginning, or wherever you feel like is a relevant place to start.
Okay. Well, my beginning is that I was an only child, and I was raised by my mom and her common law partner.
Okay.
And what's always been kind of interesting is that my mom was 42 when I was born.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so especially, many years ago, that was pretty unusual. And she was also single, right? So I've always known that my mom has been very independent, pretty spicy lady, right?
Sounds it, yeah.
And so the story was always that, she told me she got married at 17. Mm-hmm. And she was married for 25 years.
All right.
She found out she was pregnant with me and jumped on a bus and moved across country as far away as she could go. So I was born on the coast.
Okay. On the West Coast.
On the West Coast.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did she tell you why she jumped on a bus and went as far away as possible?
She did. It's funny. I used to ask a lot of questions when I was growing up. And so I would, ask, who is my dad and, all of this stuff. And when I would ask her about life before me, she would always say, that's my life, that's not your life. Or
Okay.
The other version of the story is if I would ask, well, what did you do for all of those years? She would say, I was drunk.
Okay.
And that was the end of it. So
All right.
her story was very simple, right? So
she was at that point a recovering alcoholic, I take it.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so,
And,
but
yeah.
that was her way of just hiding or pretending nothing ever happened because she was drunk the whole time.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it's possible that she really didn't have a lot of memory at that time as well. So, so we'll give her that. So anyway, I always sort of wondered about who my father was. And maybe about 10 years ago, I sent away for my long-form birth certificate, and that didn't really give me too much information, except it gave me his name. But his
It
name
did
is
give you a name.
Yeah, it's very common.
Okay.
So I thought, well, that's great, but that doesn't really help me. And it didn't have a birth date or anything like that. So I left it alone for a little while. I was raising little ones at the time.
Okay.
And then when my mom passed away, then I went away for another form because I realized that you could, in addition to getting the long form birth certificate, you could actually get a copy of the form that they fill out when you're born.
Oh.
So written in her own hand, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Again,
You know what? Can I just give you an aside? That used to be my job.
Really?
When I was in college, I worked in a hospital and I was the birth certificate clerk. And I was the one who
Really?
would go to the different rooms to the new moms and I would help them fill out that form.
I would
then
love
I'd
that.
go into the basement of the hospital and type up a birth certificate and then go back and have them sign it and then hunt down the doctor and have him sign it.
Wow.
And that was one of my favorite jobs ever.
That sounds pretty fun. I would like that job.
Yeah. Isn't it funny? That just like occurred to me. I'm like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I got to see the form that she had filled out, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Although, again, they don't give you the date of birth of your parents. And
Right.
I
Did they
think
give an
that would be-
age, though? A general age?
It does give them an age.
Okay.
Yes. So I had that, and I thought, well, that's great. What do I do with that? Not much, because here I still have a person with a very common name.
Yes. Now, back up again for a 2nd.
Yeah.
When you got the long form birth certificate and there was a name on there, did your mother qualify that? Did she agree that that was his name?
When I got the long form,
Yeah.
she was still with us. So yes, she did say that that's the name that she had, said was my father's name.
And did she confirm that it was indeed your father?
Well, she had told me that was his name, and then that was the name that I saw on the
Gotcha.
form.
So she stuck
yeah,
with the same story from the beginning. Okay.
She absolutely did.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So that was it for a while, and like I said, she had passed away. I'm an only child, and her common law partner had passed away many years before then, and so really, I for a few years felt kind of untethered.
I bet.
I had my own family, I had my own life going on, everything was great, but I didn't have anything that grounded me.
Yeah.
Nothing that sort of came before me. So I was really curious. And that brings us up to this spring.
Okay.
And now my husband, he has a background in genetics for work.
Oh, good.
He's
Okay.
a scientist. Yeah. So we got to talking about the Golden State Killer case.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was in the news this spring.
Right.
About how they were able to find him through, genetic genealogy and finding third cousins and that kind of thing. And, that he hadn't gone out and done a 23andMe or anything like that, but they were able to track him down because his family members had.
Exactly.
Right?
So that was the impetus. The actual Golden State Killer case was the kind of the light bulb moment for you. Okay, good.
Yes, and it was so funny because we were sort of talking about it, and it was my husband was saying, wow, that's really something. And boy, I just don't know that I would ever do one of those tests. Mm-hmm. And I said, yeah, I guess so. And he said, but you should, because you have questions.
Right.
And I thought that was really interesting because I thought it was a kind of a dead issue because I would sort of defer to what he had to say on the matter just because of his background in genetics.
Yes.
Right?
Uh-huh.
So that his opinion was pretty important to me about that anyway, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, well, maybe I should because I had sort of thought about it before. And when he kind of put it out there, I thought, well, I'll really give this some thought. Now, am I really prepared to find out anything, because once you know something, you can't not know it anymore.
Right.
And I really thought about that, which when I look back, it's pretty quaint. How I was like, oh, will I be prepared? Yes, I will. Right?
It's pretty
So
quaint. I love that.
Yeah. So I send away for the kit. And then it comes, and I send it back, and I guess it took about a month.
Mm-hmm.
And then it arrived, and the results arrived in my email box. And I thought, well, this is pretty exciting. Here I go. I'm going to find out my birth father's family. This is going to be great. And I bring up my results, and I see my auntie,
Mm-hmm.
who lives close by. We weren't in touch at the time, but I know who she is, Auntie M. And then I see a similar relationship, a first cousin level relationship, the same as my Auntie M. And it was a woman named Jordan. And
Okay.
I thought, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. She was also related to Auntie M.
Oh, she was. Okay.
So I thought, well, that doesn't help me at all.
Right.
Great, I just wasted $100. So that was actually what went through my mind, and I thought, well, that was dumb. Now I'm still right where I was, and so I kind of, I went to get up away from my desk and walk away, and I went, I don't have a cousin Jordan.
Uh-huh.
And it was weird because my mom was not a family historian by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
And she wasn't particularly close with many people in her family. But you kind of hear things over time. You hear people's names in conversation, when people are going to college, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was pretty sure that I had never heard of Cousin Jordan.
Uh-huh.
So I thought, oh, well, that's very interesting. But my mom had a lot of brothers and sisters.
Right.
Right? So I thought, okay, I'm going to find out who she is. So I just sent her a little message, saying, hey, looks like we're pretty closely related, just, wondering, who your family is, that kind of thing.
Do you remember the Santa Morgan amount off the top of your head?
Yeah, 941.
So that's
I wanna
pretty
say.
clearly a first cousin or something.
Yeah,
thereabouts, yeah.
So pretty close. So I said, looks like we're first cousins or similarly related. And I said, my mother wasn't a historian, and she wasn't close to her family. So just, and I told her my mom's name and all that.
Yeah.
And just wondering if anything sounds familiar. And she wrote back right away. And she said, that she was just about to send me a message when she saw my results. And she said that her mom and her siblings were put into foster care in the early to mid 50s, and that they were eventually adopted.
Wait, her mom and her sibling? Oh, her mom's siblings. Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. Yeah. So everybody went into foster care in the 50s, and I thought, oh, well, that doesn't sound familiar to me at all. And so I was racking my brain trying to sort out the family history, because there were quite a few siblings that my mom had.
Okay.
But I do know that my mom had two sisters who died in the 50s
Okay.
that she was very close to. One was married and had two children, and I know who they are.
Right.
And another one, she didn't have children, as far as I knew.
Right.
And so I thought, oh my goodness, my aunt had children.
Right.
And when she died, I imagine they all had to go into foster care and be given up for adoption.
Right.
And nobody ever spoke of them. And I thought, oh my goodness, my mom carried this burden. She was an alcoholic at the time, and she was very young herself. My mom was born in 1928, so she would have been, maybe 18, 19 sort of years old, and her life was pretty complicated herself.
Right.
And I thought, wow, she had children. Well, this poor woman is reaching out looking for her family. I want to help her.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so this is what was going through my mind. I just thought, oh my gosh, I need to help her, this poor woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what I said was, get in touch with Auntie M, because she might have the scoop for you, because I don't know anything, but she will.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I went away for the weekend. So I got home and I saw a message from Cousin Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
And basically it said, Auntie M was younger when all of this happened. And she said that, seeing my message really brought her back to those days. And, it just basically, her message was all about how we're more open now, but things were not talked of then. And basically she just said, I'm just really grateful to find my family.
Okay.
Right? So I said, okay, well, I'm really glad to talk to you. And, I told her a little bit about my life, and I went on a little bit.
Hold
about
on one second.
Yeah.
Auntie M was she your mom's sister? Another
Yes.
of your mom's sisters? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She's
Sorry.
the only surviving child.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So basically I just told her about my mom's life because she used to live with the sister that I thought had all of these children and then died, right?
Right.
And so I told her about that, and I said, now knowing that there were children involved seems to connect some things, like why my mom didn't talk much about her past. And I said, oh, yeah, by the way, I looked at your family tree, and I saw this very common name, and that was my maiden name. Isn't that a coincidence?
Uh-huh.
Right? And then I realized that I guess if it's a really long message, maybe Ancestry truncates it or something, or she had sent 2 messages, maybe she just had a lot to think about. I didn't see the first message.
Oh, okay.
So the first message, and I'm looking at it now, said, she said she did talk to Auntie M, and then she said, as it turns out, and I hope this doesn't come as a shock, but your mother was my grandmother.
Oh my gosh.
Which makes you my aunt. Your mom had 5 children, a family that was put into foster care in the 50s, and then they were adopted.
Wait, so Auntie M had told her that?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Okay.
She had kept that secret for about 60 years.
Oh my gosh. So she hadn't seen, but you didn't see that message. You only saw the second one that said, I'm so glad we're.
That's right. So I sent back this chirpy little message.
Oh my
saying,
gosh.
oh, I'm so glad to know you too.
Just
isn't it
cash.
great? Yes. So I felt like, first, I was so shocked.
Yeah.
But then I realized very quickly that I had to send another message that sort of addressed what she was saying. And then I just completely lost it. I mean, I just, I screamed for my husband to come
It's
and
shocking.
look at this because I couldn't quite believe what I was seeing, and I couldn't go back and read it again, that's for sure. So I stayed outside the room
While he
read it because I couldn't be in the same room with the message.
Oh my gosh. What was the overwhelming emotion about that?
Absolute shock.
Yeah. Were
Like,
you?
There wasn't a positive, there wasn't a negative, there was just shock.
Okay. Sure.
Since I've had some time to think about it, I think that it reminds me of having a death in the family, a really unexpected one.
Mm-hmm.
Except you have that same kind of shock and the same, the physical sensation that you get.
Yes.
But then after it starts to wear off, you realize that everybody you love is still there, and your family is still fine, and everything's okay, but your life is still changed.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it was when I was sitting out in the hallway outside the room that I realized that, I was going to have to get myself together because I was sitting on the floor, and I don't think I've ever sat on the floor out there. But then my daughter, she's grown up, but she came down the stairs, and she said, hey, do you want a cup of tea? Because I think I was crying. I'm not sure.
Oh my gosh.
I have no idea what was going on. And then I thought, oh, no, mums sit on the couch. I remember thinking that. Mums don't sit on the floor.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Mums sit on the couch and mums take the tea. So, but that night I was, I said, I have sisters. I have to go to my sister.
Yeah.
I have to go. I have
Yes.
to, like, I think I was heading out to the airport. Like, I wanted to go and meet whoever was connected to me
Yeah.
right then. And I knew I was just going to go to the airport and figure it out on my credit card or my air miles or whatever. But, you know, everybody kind of, you know, talked me down and had a cup of tea and kind of thought about things. But it was days that I was in shock.
I bet. So, as more information came in, what did you find out?
Not much more, actually.
Really?
Yeah, so far, not too much. I mean, things are pretty locked down. I did go and visit my Auntie Em,
Yep.
which was good. We hadn't really spoken since my mom had passed away.
Okay.
And it was, now I kind of understand what was going on, but at the time, I sort of thought, oh, well, here I am, you know, I'm alone, I'm an only child, and, you know, my family hasn't claimed me.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of wanted to be part of that.
Yeah.
And now I think I understand, you know, because she had talked to the senior sister in the family.
Okay.
And she had said, okay, so what are we going to do about this? And
Auntie Em had talked to the senior.
She had.
So the
yeah.
other sister. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All
and
right.
the older sister said, let's just give it a little time.
Okay.
But the older sister would be gone maybe in about 3 months after my mom.
Okay.
Yeah, because they were in their 80s, right?
Yeah.
So, and Auntie Em was quite a bit younger than her siblings.
Okay.
So, and she kind of had to decide what to do, and she thought, well, maybe I'll just leave this. So I think she was quite relieved to be able to talk about it. It's been 60 years, and she was I think she was happy that way, but she was in shock too.
Yeah.
I wrote her an email, and, you know, I said that I knew and that I was just happy and grateful, and that I said in the email, I said, I know that you didn't ask to have to carry this secret all these years.
Yeah.
So, and I said, you know, when I would be home and to give me a call. So she did, and she gave me a call the next evening, and she was actually quite, she seemed, I don't know if angry is the right word, but she was maybe protective, I guess, or something.
Who was she protective of?
I think she was just worried that I was going to be really mad.
Okay.
I think she was worried that this was going to be a really difficult conversation.
Okay.
So she was just making sure that she was going to, you know, be okay.
Okay.
Right. And because I remember, I mean, I hadn't slept maybe in, you know, 20 hours or something when I talked to her. And she said, so you didn't know about any of this? And I said, no. And immediately I felt like the dumbest person alive.
Well,
you know,
I mean, if nobody was going to tell you, why would you know?
That's right. Well, and that's the thing, you know, I always thought that I was a pretty good judge of character, that, you know, I could see things, you know, all you ever know is what you're told.
So that tells me that this was something that happened within the family that nobody spoke of to each other. And so she didn't know that your mother didn't tell you, because she didn't talk about it with your mother, even though they both knew about it.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
wow.
Right. So she said, you didn't know. And I said, no. And she asked again, and I said, I really didn't. And she said, why did you do ancestry? And I think by this point, I'm starting to cry a little, and I started talking about the Golden State Killer and all of this kind of stuff. And I told her why I did the ancestry test, and that's when she just softened right up, and she said, you know, I feel like I have all of my chicks back in the nest.
Oh.
And she, I mean, just so soft.
Yeah.
And I think realizing that I was okay and that everything was going to be fine and that we could just, you know, go forward from where we were.
Yeah.
Right? And not have to go backward and talk about everything.
Okay.
So she was really happy. And then I went out, I took a trip out to see her a few weeks later. I brought my laptop so that we could kind of compare ancestry stuff, and I showed her some photos that Jordan, my niece, had sent me. And Auntie M just, what my sister's faces as children, it really struck her.
Wow.
And she was stroking the screen of my laptop, saying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry," and it was just the most moving thing.
Oh wow.
Because she really, whereas my mom really fashioned herself as not a family person, and very independent and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Auntie M was sort of the opposite. She was family, and she was the matriarch and the mom, and
So this was probably an especially difficult burden for her to have to bear.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did she tell you what the circumstances were?
Not really. I don't think she knew.
So
she was quite young at the time.
Okay, tell me again what exactly you do know about the situation.
All that I know.
Okay.
For sure, what happened was that. I don't even know exactly how many children. I believe 5.
Okay.
I believe there were 5 children, and they were put into foster care and placed for adoption.
Do you know why?
And no.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm waiting for non-identifying adoption information from the province, from where they were adopted.
Okay.
And that might give me a little bit more information about that. But there was 2 of the sisters were twins.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were put for adoption together.
Okay.
And the set of twins, one of the moms, one of my sisters, is Jordan's mom.
Okay.
And then the other sister, she is my other niece's mom. So those, my nieces know each other.
Okay.
Because they're in the same town.
And they grew up, their mothers grew up together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But however many others there are, they all lost track of each other, I assume.
Yes, although I did speak to my brother-in-law.
Okay.
And he said that at some point they kind of all got together. I guess from what I understand, it seemed like it was quite a few years ago. And so they had gotten together and I guess, lost track of each other over time.
Yeah, okay.
So, which is okay. That happens in families.
Yeah, that happens in families that started out together.
But it does sort of leave me kind of feeling like, okay, well, you guys knew each other to let go of each other, but I'd like to know all of you.
Yeah.
But like I said, one of my sisters did pass away.
Okay.
So she was one of the twins.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So I know that the other twin is still living, and then there are other children.
Okay.
So, like I said, I'm waiting for the non-identifying adoption information, and just kind of I'll follow that track as well as I can. It seems like there aren't any ancestry hints or 23andMe, because I did 23andMe as well.
Of course.
Or any of the other sites that I've uploaded to. Yeah, so I haven't come across any other people who I think are connected to that part of the family.
Okay. Now, I interrupted you when you were telling me that you went to visit. Is that correct?
Oh, yes, I did.
I'm sorry, go back to that.
First, I went to visit my Auntie M.
Uh-huh.
And then a couple of months after that, I went out to visit my nieces.
Okay. Aww.
So that was amazing.
I bet.
It was really something to be around people who looked like people that I knew, because that was, I grew up as an only child. I didn't really see my extended family very much, so this was all new to me, to look into somebody's eyes and to see my mom, who it turns out, in spite of all of our differences, I actually miss quite a lot.
Yeah.
And so being able to see her in my nieces was really something. But it was funny because one of my nieces, she was a little bit quiet every once in a while when we'd be having a conversation. And eventually she said, I'm sorry. It's just that it's not your fault, but every once in a while you look just like my mother. And I went, oh my God, because you look just like my mother.
Oh, wow.
And it was, it was really...
That's a crazy
that was
sensation.
quite a moment for me.
Yeah.
You know, because she really does. She looks so much like my mom.
Huh.
And, it just made... it's sort of something tangible to when you're processing all these feelings, and you really wish that you could say, Mom, what was going on here?
Yeah.
To see somebody who almost looks like her, it made it almost a little bit closer to have that conversation that I really wanted to have.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah. What about your siblings? Have you met any? Have you spoken to any?
No, not
Okay.
yet. No.
All right. Do they know about you?
No.
Oh, really?
No, I don't. I talked to my brother-in-law, and he's not really in touch with them anymore. Although he kind of thought he remembered something about one of them, so we went down a bit of a path trying to find her, but it turned out not to be her. So it was he said he seemed to remember what her name was and where she worked.
Now,
so
wait, are you talking? The brother-in-law was married to who?
To my sister that passed away.
Okay. And then she was one of the twins. And what about
Yes.
the other twin?
Well, the other twin, she was not ever really interested in meeting her birth family.
Okay. All right.
So, so I'm going to just leave that alone. I'll respect that.
Yeah, give her time.
And wait and see what happens when I find out who everybody else is, and see what I'm going to do with that information.
Right. So now basically you're waiting for more information to come in, the non-identifying, and then you're going to take it from there, right?
Yeah.
Did your niece tell you why she did Ancestry in the first place?
I think she did it because her mom was not too interested in her birth family.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so since she wasn't, my niece kind of thought, well, I want to know.
Of course. She's a part of it too. This is her heritage. Yeah.
Yeah. So she wanted to know. So she did it, and she did it a few years ago, I think. So it was, she said it was funny because both my Auntie Em and I came up within a couple of days of each other.
Oh, really?
And we had no idea that
each other had done it.
Interesting. And she just assumed that we had, sat at the table and had an ancestry party or something.
Yeah.
But no, we had done that separately, and then we had just kind of both arrived on the scene at the same time, which is so interesting because I think had we not, it would have been more difficult for me to say, oh, well, you should talk to Auntie Em.
Yes.
Because that's something that I would have only thought of probably when I saw her right there on my Ancestry page.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's crazy. That's an amazing story.
Yeah.
That's mind-blowing. So let's go back to the originally why we took the test.
Oh, okay. Yes.
to find Dad, dear old Dad. Where are we in that
right.
search?
Well, I think I had mentioned that he had a very common name, right? A very common, very Scottish, Irish name.
Right.
And when I got my results, I thought, well, isn't that interesting that I'm like 25% Scandinavian? Mm-hmm. That's really strange. Mm-hmm. And that certainly was not part of our family history. Like I said, this is all made a little more complicated in the fact that my mom was not a historian.
Yeah.
But what I grew up with was that we were Scottish-Irish.
Okay.
Right? And then I get this and it's Scandinavian. And I know that, it's not really the purpose of, it is the purpose of ancestry, but, it's not its greatest.
Not for us, yes.
Thing.
But
Exactly.
it'll still inform
Exactly.
What to look for. And it makes perfect, because I've seen your DNA and I've seen your DNA matches, and there's a lot of Scandinavian in there. A lot of those people are Scandinavian.
So I certainly didn't put a lot of faith in the actual ancestry part of things. You know,
Yeah.
when it said, you know, what your ethnicity is
Sure.
and stuff like that, I kind of thought, well, I took it with a grain of salt. But those names cannot be explained away that way. And so after Ancestry, then I uploaded to My Heritage, which is more European.
Yes.
Or at least for me, I got a lot of European hits.
Yeah, most of my my heritage is European.
Yeah. So there, oh my goodness, lots of Scandinavian names.
Okay.
So that was interesting. I did 23andMe because I had heard that a lot of people who have adoption in their family will maybe seek out 23andMe because they want the health information.
Right.
So I thought, oh, well, I'm going to go fish in that pond, right? And so far, nothing really earth-shattering has come from that either.
Yeah, I'm like you. I haven't. The only place that I've really found anything significant for me is Ancestry. Even though I'm in all of the other ponds too.
Yes.
But and that could be because I was born in Australia, and you know. So.
Yeah, and I think for me too, because I'm in Canada, it might be a little different as well. I don't know that we've had access to all of these tests for quite as long as you have in the United States.
Yeah.
So things could change over time. I've also uploaded with Living DNA.
Me too. Do you have any matches?
Yeah, nothing yet there. I still have the. Do you have the picture of the men fishing?
Yes, I have 0 matches. Correct.
Yeah, right.
But
Same
I
here,
do have to keep fishing for matches. Right. But I did get an ethnicity breakdown. Did you?
I haven't even looked.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just all about matches.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing surprising in it so far. And I thought because it's British based, I would have matches because basically that's where my people are from. But
right, and
it's a newer company.
My grandfather's family was from England.
Okay.
And so I still haven't had any hits there, but definitely some with Ancestry.
Right.
And on My Heritage and Family Tree DNA.
Right.
I'm starting to sound a bit obsessed here, but
yeah. Not to me.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Exactly.
True.
Exactly.
Not to anybody listening.
Exactly. So basically, I've helped you a little bit with your paternal search, and have made kind of a mirror tree off of one of your top matches. But your closest, isn't it your closest paternal match like a third cousin?
Or
is it a
cousin.
second? Okay,
I think it's a second.
Is that the one that we were not sure if that is that person's actual tree?
That's right.
Yeah, I think that could be the problem.
I think that's a hobby tree.
Yes.
Of his wife, but I think actually because you have such excellent records available in the United States, and that's where they're from, I think actually it's an ex-wife.
Oh. Okay.
So that was as far as I went with that. I know I said I was going to maybe talk to him again, but he was a little bit, he wasn't quite sure who I was or how I was talking to him. Even though I explained it, he was still not quite sure of what was going on. But it turns out that the person who had built the tree for him, that didn't look like it was actually his tree. It looked like it was sort of an offshoot of her tree.
Yes.
When I went to look at her really big tree, there were some matches for him that looked like they were more related to him.
Oh, interesting.
And the reason why we thought that that wasn't his tree in the first place is because there was no one who shared his name.
The last name.
And when I talked with him, he said that his last name came from a combination of his either his great-grandparents or his grandparents' names. And I thought, okay, well, that's really helpful. And I looked at his tree and I thought, there aren't any people with any of those names on that tree.
On the tree. But there are more than one person with his name in your matches.
Yes.
I think it could be his daughter.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are, but when I looked at his probably ex-wife's tree. I don't want to make up stories here or cause any marital discord where there is none, but I think ex-wife's
What if they were
tree.
listening?
Well, I think she's really into genealogy, so maybe she is.
You know what? I think so too. And I actually found her on Facebook and
Right.
and tried to friend her, but I've heard nothing. So, what a surprise.
Yes, well, yeah, I think she got the same treatment from me. But, because she's into genealogy and she has this huge tree, I was able to go in and find people that look like they're connected to my second cousin. But he believes that he was the only person in his family who left Denmark at all.
Okay. But they're all in the general area.
Yes. See, he is geographically, he's actually
He's in the right
across
place.
the border from me.
Yes. And most
just a
of your
couple of
matches
hours
are.
away.
Right. Most of your
Yeah.
matches are. And I was telling you yesterday when we were emailing that the town that a lot of them grew up in, or at least in the tree that I've been working on that may not be their tree, his tree, they were all in the town that I lived in when I was in high school in Washington State. It's
yes.
so weird.
We've been through there.
Yeah. Oh, so weird.
And I thought that made a lot of sense because of where they were located,
Yeah.
where I was born.
Yep.
Because what's interesting is for my mom, as far as I'm concerned now, everything's on the table, every possibility. So I have looked at old census records, old voting records, things like that to try to place her in
Right.
different times.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure when she left, Ontario
Right.
to come out here. So
You think,
it's
but she told you it was when she got pregnant.
That's right.
So you assume that you were conceived in Ontario, but that's not necessarily
well, I
true.
don't know. Some
Some of your matches are Canadian that, although I haven't looked to see if they're maternal or paternal, so maybe they could
Right.
just be
I think
her
they're
side.
mostly maternal
Okay.
and mostly from parts of the family that I do know about.
Okay. All right.
So, yeah. So I'm just not sure about that whole paternal side is still very much a question mark.
Yeah, we
But
need
it's
to get back into
interesting.
it though. Here's the thing: any day now, I bet in January you'll get a
Yes.
bunch more matches because of all the sales that are
Oh,
going
yeah.
on right now. So
When I
that's
saw
the
those,
beauty of it.
those Black Friday specials, I was
Yes.
so excited.
I know. I
That's a gift
salivate
for
when I
me.
see them. Yeah, because that's the beauty of this is that more and more people are testing. So even though I see so many people posting on Facebook, well, that was a waste of money, but it's not over. You know
No,
what I mean? You
that's
get new
right,
matches every day,
exactly.
and
Yes.
we're all eventually going to get there, I think. So
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited to see what happens.
Yeah.
But, it's pretty funny to listen to, your podcast or to just look at any of the groups that I belong to on Facebook about genealogy because, the story is so complex that people talk about, an NPE and I think, oh, well, yeah, I can kind of relate to that. Or people talk about adoption and I kind of think, oh, well, yeah, I kind of know a little bit about what that must be like and all of these kinds of things. And it seems like I just kind of hit all of the boxes.
yeah, you kind of have a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
You're like the mutt of NPEs.
Yes, I am. I can own that. Yeah.
Okay, good.
What's funny is that, I grew up thinking that my mom's common law partner was my father for a long time.
Until when?
Oh, probably till I was about 15, maybe.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. So just finding out
That is a weird time to find that out too.
Yes, I was probably being really annoying. And
Jeez.
and she probably let it out at a moment that she didn't intend to.
Oh, that's horrible.
As so many of these, but you know what? The more I listen and learn, the more I find out that's not that uncommon.
Yep, you're absolutely
so,
right.
I think it's probably always good to tell your kids about all of these things because it's going to come out at some point.
It's going to come out,
You should
especially now.
Control your tone if you tell them when they're small.
Yes, exactly. It can just be the story that they've always known, and it'll be less shocking later.
Yeah, so that's where we are. It's kind of, I think hopefully this is not the end of the story. Hopefully, this is just the very beginning.
No, it won't be the end. Certainly, I think there's obviously a lot more to find out on the maternal side. Please keep me posted about that. I'm so curious.
I will.
And I would love to know what happens next. And I am a viewer of your DNA, so I'll periodically keep checking in with that as well and see.
Excellent. I need all the eyes that I can get.
Sure. I hear you. Yep. Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking my call. This has been such a joy. It's so nice to hear your voice finally. We've been emailing for so long.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It's really good to hear from you. And I look forward to listening to other story times.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. All righty.
Okay.
I'll talk to you
Bye,
soon.
Julie.
Bye. Okay, we're back. What did you think of it?
I loved it.
Wasn't it great?
It was great. I love her.
Thanks, Robbie.
Thanks, Robbie. I love you.
I love Robbie's accent because it's very Canadian and very typical Canadian, like sorry.
Kind and genuine.
Yes, as all Canadians are. Our friends to the north. Anyway, thanks, Robbie. The story, as you can tell, is still ongoing, and we'll keep you posted as things progress. I love talking to listeners, and that basically is where our story time is coming from, unless you want to hear about all the murders and the drownings in my family.
I do.
Well, okay. So continue to reach out to me and tell me your story, or tell the listeners your story, or tell me the story and I can tell them the story if you're shy. There are so many ways that you can do it.
I could tell it.
Or Lily could tell it, but it would be very long.
That's true. And I would do a lot of voices.
And she'd do voices.
And then my grandma was like, "You're adopted." Right?
Anyway, so yeah, reach out, guys. Keep on keeping on. Don't forget, you can email me at the website, which is cutoffjeans.com, or directly at julesjackson@cutoffjeans.com. The Facebook page is the Cutoff Jeans Podcast. You know that. I was going to say on Google. That's not it. On Twitter, you can find me at Jules Jackson with 2 O's. The podcast is Cutoff Jeans Pod. And there's also a Cutoff Jeans Podcast Instagram page. And that's it. Happy holidays, everybody. My dog outside is saying happy holidays as well.
So loudly.
As she does.
As one does.
Okay, guys, thank you. Thank you so much for the support. This has been an incredible year in some good ways and some bad ways, but you guys are the good ways. Thanks, Lily.
You're welcome.
I love you.
And I you.
Okay. All right, guys. One last time in 2018, as always, the truth is in your jeans.
Woohoo!